What's up, family? What's happening? What's happening? Welcome. It's Friday, and y'all know what happens on Friday, man. We get it going. We get going. We go in. I welcome you around the brown table discussion. You know where we break bread, we sip some tea, and we spill a little tea. But I'm glad to have y'all, man. Thank y'all for being here. We're doing this second part of relationships, healthy or toxic. And so, last week we talked about how, um, you know, we reminisced, if you will, about how all of these things, came in, and we talked about how we could be on the phone all times of night. We talked about what could really the thing that attracted us to our significant other. What was it that we liked about them? And we talked about how we could spend hours on the phone talking about nothing. And we would wake up saying we had a good conversation, and then we even thought about how there are certain songs that can come on and take you to a certain place or a certain time, kind of remind you of what the things that y'all had together. It'll take you to a certain place, to take you to a certain moment, and you sit there and you can bask in that memory about everything. Sometimes even when it comes to not just the good times, but even the bad times, man. When you hear a certain song, it can almost make you choke up because it takes you back to that place. um, and so we talked about the good side of relationships, and how when you're climbing that roller coaster, man, and you're going up, and when you go up, it's good. You're having fun, you're appreciating everything that's happening in the relationship. You all are you really like this person. You feel like you just spend hours wrapped up in them. You just love everything about them. There's a fragrance fragrance that they can wear, and it will, when you're out in public, it can remind you of them if you smell it in public, to the point that you'll be looking for them. And so, there are some things that are good about relationships. Relationships are good because we were created as social creatures. We were created as social beings. And so when we get into these relationships, we like being where we are. And we're going up and we're having this good time. We're enjoying each other. The conversation is right. The intimacy is right. They've got these little annoying habits, but when you're in love, those annoying habits are cute at the time, and they can do stuff to you, and you're like, oh, you're so crazy, and that's on the way up. And after a while, you reach the top, and you sit there at the top for a while, and that top can represent you've gotten to the highest point in your relationship, and now you're at a plateau. Or it can represent, man, this is this euphoric moment that we're in. But there's a saying that says, what goes up must come down. The truth about relationships are there is a downside. They can turn. They can make a turn. I don't want to say make a turn for the worse, but they can turn. They can start to go downhill. They can start to have some problems. And if we don't handle these issues properly, the relationship can turn toxic. And so, when you're thinking about relationships, and the toxicity or what's unhealthy in relationships, what are some things that can make relationships become unhealthy and even turn toxic? Because if the person that you're with is seemingly toxic to you, I would venture to say there were some things along the way that pointed you to their toxicity. But because you were in love, you missed it. I believe this: love and hate can both be blind, but they will allow you to see what you want to see. Let me try that again. Love and hate are two emotions that I believe can make you blind. They say love is blind. I believe hate can be blind as well. But both of them will allow you to see what you want to see. And so we can get blinded because we're so infatuated with this person. Remember, I told you about those little annoying habits. They're cute in the beginning, but then when you're upset with the person, these minor issues that are cute in the beginning, now there are major problems. They're causing major issues with you. I was looking at a clip from one of those reality shows. I don't even know which one it was. I think it was like Marriage Boot Camp or something. And I guess the lady's name is, I don't know if I'm saying it right or not, but her name is Tahiri. I believe that's her name. I guess that's how you say her name. But the guy that she's there with grabbed her, and this is on national television. Now, if he will do that on national television, I can only imagine what he's doing behind closed doors. And if that was not enough to upset you, there were other guys that were on the set and they didn't even move. Now I'm cut from a different cloth. I cannot watch and stand. I cannot stand and watch a woman be abused at the hands of another man. Now we're gonna have to talk, player. Because see, that's not the era that I come from. That ain't how we handle business. And so we have to ask ourselves, at what point do we see that this thing is going downhill? And if we see it going downhill, what are we doing to stop it so that it does not become catastrophic? So when we look at this relationship, it's good. Again, it's good going up. But on the other side of this, there's going to be some down. It's not always going to be good, but we can mitigate how bad it can be. And I see y'all, y'all answering in the comments, but so when we get on this other side, what does that look like? Because this is, my wife taught me something. She said, it is when everything is good that you need to pray. It is when there are no problems, when there are seemingly no issues, that is the moment when you need to be praying the hardest, because a storm is coming. And you have to be prepared for the storm before the storm gets there. Just like, right now there's a storm that's in the Caribbean, and it's slated to be headed for the Carolinas. The time to prepare for the storm is not when it's off the coast of the Carolinas. The time for us to prepare is now, while it's in the Caribbean. And see, and what happens when the storm is, because even when you look at storms, there are two types of people that address these storms. And I'm talking about actual storms, but I think the application is the same even for the storms of life. There are people who will evacuate because of the impending storm. And then there are those that will say, I'm going to ride it out. Now, I can't tell you which one of them to be. But what I'm saying is, if you're going to ride this thing out, you need to understand that the chance of you dying is there. And I'm not saying that every time a rain cloud pops up in your relationship that you need to evacuate, but you need to see that if this rain cloud, if this shower is coming in our relationship, are there sirens going off that's saying this has the potential to be deadly? You see, what has happened for so many of us is we have been in these storms so long that when the sirens go off, we become numb to the sirens. We don't even hear the sirens anymore. People who are from the outside of our area, they hear the storm, they hear the sirens going off, and they're like, man, what's that siren for? And people will say, oh, I didn't even know that the thing was going off. Why? Because they've become desensitized to it. They've heard these sirens all their life, that now when they go off, they don't even hear them anymore because their ears have become numb. And it's the same thing in relationships. These sirens are blasting. And people are saying, what are those sirens? And we will say, wait a minute, I don't, what are you talking about? I don't even hear any sirens. And what happens is people are wondering, how can you not hear it? And I'm with you. I'm with you, Vega. Every storm is not meant to be ridden out. There comes a time when you have to remove yourself from these storms. You've got to decide, man, I got to go. Because if you don't, this might be that storm that kills you. Far too many people have had to deal with storms in New Orleans. And so when Katrina comes, they're like, well, I'm just going to ride Katrina out. And the people that decided to ride Katrina out, they died. And then some people, even though some people got trapped in the storm, they had to wait for somebody to come rescue them, that if they had just heeded the warnings that were coming before and left the city, they would have not been in the situation that they're in. And so I'm saying that when these storms come in our marriages, We don't, or in our relationships, not necessarily marriage. And let me say something while I'm passing this way. Y'all remember that I was saying preparing for the storm. Let me say this. One of the things, and again, remember, I'm from the faith community. And we preach about relationships, and we preach about, marriage, this, that, and the third. But can I tell you, stop pressuring people to get married. Stop pressuring people to be in relationships. Everybody is not meant to be married. Everybody that doesn't grow up with the desire to be married. And so if your desire is not to be married, then I'm not going to push that on you, because you will put so much pressure on people to make them feel like they have to be married, that they will accept anybody or anything that comes along, and you put them in a far worse position than if they had just remained single. And so, and marriage is not for everybody. Just like singleness is not for everybody, marriage is not for everybody. Let people choose how they want to spend their lives. There's nothing wrong with not being married. If it was something wrong with being single, then the Bible would never address singles. I remember reading, now I don't want to preach, but I'm just saying that even talks about how it may be better to be by yourself, so you can focus on God. And so I don't push people into relationships. I don't push people into marriage, because everybody is not meant to be in a relationship. And let me also say this. Even though somebody may be good for you, you may not necessarily be good for them. See, we get caught up thinking, because I'm good, I'm good for X, Y, and Z, or that person is good for me. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're good for them. And so we get caught up in our own selfishness and think, man, wow, they're just so good for me. They just do this for me. And while they may be good for you, you may not necessarily be good for them. And so we have to ensure that this compatibility is good all the way around. Too many times when we go into these relationships, and I know it starts out for all of us. All of us start out in a mode where we are where we're selfish, where it's about us, if we're going to be honest. And so the thought process is, this person is good for me. This is how they make me feel. And while it all starts out rosy in the beginning, on the other side of this ride, you may find out that they are still good for me, but I don't think I'm good for them. And so we have to be careful about that, because it's on the other side of this ride. Going up again, we're having a good time. We're really enjoying ourselves. But on the other side of the ride, when it starts to descend, is when we start to see some things. And not only do we learn some things about our partners, but we learn some things about ourselves. And I'll tell you, the scariest part about going down is not what you learn about them, but what you learn about yourself. Because there's some introspection that should go on. Let me say it like that. That should go on. But I think we miss the part about the introspection. And it's hard for us to come to a realization that this is who I am. And it becomes equally as hard to say, man, this is who this person is. And so when we look at, these unhealthy relationships, what are some things that we look at that causes us to start having these issues? Here's one: control issues that can turn a relationship really badly, and make it toxic. A person that has control issues, they want to try to control your time. They want to control where you go. They want to control, this, that, and the third. They show up on the job unexpectedly. They're not showing up to surprise you. They're trying to show up to see, who. and let me say this, y'all got to stop with these work spouses, because if you do that improperly, and I know it starts out as a joke, but some of them work spouses take that stuff seriously. And if you're not careful, when you start to have a problem with your real spouse and you turn to your work spouse, it could turn into something that you didn't mean for it to turn into. And so yeah, one of the issues that could cause some problems is control issues. Some other things that can turn relationships bad. Lack of trust. And not a lack of trust. Lack of trust is one of the big ones. And a lot of these control issues, lack of trust, all of these are those warning sirens that are going off that's trying to tell us, hold, wait a minute, you might want to investigate this a little bit further. But again, remember what I told you. Love is blinding just as well as hate is blinding. But love, even though they say love is blind, each of them allows us to see what we want to see. And so we don't see the control issues while everybody else is like, old buddy's kind of controlling. You might want to check that. Oh no, he just playing. Okay, all right. Till you find yourself locked in a dungeon somewhere and you can't get out. And so let's see. Maria, boy, you got a lot to say today. It says, let me say, those that are broken on the inside shouldn't get into any relationship with anyone until we get the proper help, healing that we need. I agree with that. Too many people are getting themselves into relationships and they are broken themselves. And what happens a lot of times is people will get into relationships even though they are broken, with the hope that the person that they are with will help make them whole. You've got to stop getting into relationships expecting someone else to make you whole. And the thing about this is, two broken people will come and try to make the relationship whole. No. Everybody needs to come to the relationship whole. Because if you come to the relationship whole and I come to the relationship whole, in the moment that we are broken, I can still rely on your wholeness to help me through. That's why I tell people, don't come to a relationship 50-50. Because if I have an off day and I'm at 45%, you can only fill me up to half, and we're still not where we need to be. Everybody needs to come at 100%, because at that moment when you drop down to 50, I'm still at 100, and I can try to refill you to the point where I am. But this idea of coming 50-50, no, we're already starting, because 50-50 doesn't get you where you need to be. Because remember, when two people get together, especially in marriage, they become one. So 50 times 1 is 50. Everybody's starting out at a half. But if we both come at 100, 100 times 1 is 100. Y'all get what I'm trying to say to you? And so we need to understand that me trying to come to a relationship broken, and this is the thing, you have to recognize that you are broken. I can remember I got involved in not in a personal relationship, but in a business relationship. And it was saying, you're not here because we are broken, when in all actuality, they were broken, but they did not recognize their brokenness. And when people don't recognize their brokenness and you discover that brokenness, it makes the relationship toxic, because it starts from a place of dishonesty. If you don't recognize the fact that you are broken, and this is the thing, if you come to me and say I am broken, If you come here and tell me that, absolutely, absolutely, Vince, it's algebraic, absolutely, no doubt about it. But if you come and you're honest and say, I'm broken. Now this is the thing. This is me. I'm talking about Antoine Brown, because this is how I was raised. If you come to me and tell me you're broken, then I'm not going to get in that relationship with you. I'm going to tell you, hey, baby girl, appreciate you for telling me that. And it's not that I don't care about you, but I'm not in a space to help you overcome your brokenness. Because if we're honest, I'm dealing with my own stuff. But if you can go and find some resolve for your brokenness, because if you bring that baggage into the relationship, because I know who I am, and y'all can, speak to me now, because I know who I am, I'm going to feel the need to try to help you with your baggage. That's just who I am. I don't want to see you dragging this baggage by yourself. And so what happens is I'm going to try to pick up that baggage. Now, mind you, I didn't put the weights in that baggage. Somebody else put the weights in that baggage. And this is the thing. Some people are not dragging baggage into the relationship. Some people are dragging dead bodies into this relationship. So why am I going to get into this relationship with you and you're dragging this dead body with you? Now we've both got to deal with this dead body. The first thing that I've got to figure out how to do is to get you unchained from this dead body. And then I've got to figure out how we're going to bury this dead body. Are you understanding what I'm saying? And so that's not fair to me, because I didn't tie you to the dead body. You tied yourself to that dead body. But it becomes imperative at that point, really, for you to deal with that. But now in the relationship, if we both come whole, because this is the thing that I want us to understand. Everybody is going to come to a relationship with a certain amount of baggage. Let me not act like we're not going to come with a certain level or a certain amount of baggage. We're all going to come to the relationship with a certain amount of baggage. And it becomes incumbent upon me entering into this relationship to be open and honest about what I'm bringing to the relationship, for you to determine if you're willing to deal with it or not. I should not spring it on you. I shouldn't spring it on you at the last minute that, hey, I've got this going on. I should be open and honest enough to come to you up front and say, hey, this is what I'm dealing with. This is what I'm bringing. And so the decision to deal with the baggage becomes yours. It's not like, I have to allow you to make the decision of whether or not you want to deal with the baggage that I'm bringing. I shouldn't expect for you to just deal with it. Because if I care about you, I'm going to be honest about what I'm dealing with, and really ensuring, that my baggage doesn't cause you to pick up some undue baggage. Let's see here. Maria says, not only do we look for relationships to fill that void of being broken, but we also look to things to fill that void. And if we're going to be honest, the reason that a lot of people get into certain situations is because they're trying to fill that void. There are people that cannot be by themselves. They don't like the thought of them being alone. They don't like the thought of them being by themselves. And the reason that they do it is because some people cannot deal with the fact that they have to deal with their own. They don't have the ability or even the courage enough to deal with their own selves. And so that's why I'm wondering how in the world, if you can't deal with your own baggage, how do you expect somebody else to deal with your baggage? Some people can they jump from relationship to relationship. They break up today. 5 months later, they're with somebody else. They'll break up from that relationship. 5 months later, they're with somebody else. And so they jump from relationship to relationship because they cannot deal with their own mess. They can't deal with their own stuff. They need to be with somebody to help validate who they are. They treat relationships as a drug, if you will. They need to get high off the idea that they're in a relationship. And because what happens is the relationship distracts me from my own stuff until my own stuff shows up in the relationship. I don't know how many of you saw the video, and I just saw it today. I don't know how many of you saw it, but this man and this woman were celebrating their daughter's birthday. Well, the man waits till all the festivities for the young girl is over, and he gives the woman he's with, I don't know if that's his wife or his fiance or his lady or whatever, but he gives her a gift. And when she finally opens the gift, it's paternity papers. It's a DNA test. And the DNA test reveals that the daughter is not his. Can you imagine the hurt that is going on in this man's life? He has been caring for a young girl for the last 3 years that is not his daughter. And while he tells the lady, hey, you and your daughter, y'all got 30 days to get out of my house. What we cannot deny is that there was a relationship formed between him and that little girl. Because at the end of the day, the victims in that situation are the man and the child. Because they have formed a relationship. They have formed a bond. And even though he says in the video he had some doubts, he cannot deny that he formed a doubt. And him saying to her, you and your daughter have to get out, that's a man speaking from a broken place. What I need for people to understand is, even though no, he handled it really. He really handled it in a very gentlemanly way. Most of us probably would not have handled it as well as he did. Knowing that the child that you've been caring for the last 3 years, that you've been taking around your people, you've been calling your daughter, to find out that she's not your daughter. It takes you to a bad place, and he could have done like most people would have done, cause some physical damage, but he didn't. He just told her, hey, y'all have to leave. But while he didn't cause any physical damage, there is no doubt that there was emotional damage done. And so in that moment, he handled it right. But think about it. If he doesn't deal with that long term, because, for us as men, we're like, hey, it's no thing, it's whatever, blah, 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 blah. But when it comes to the next relationship, we have a tendency to treat the next person based upon what happened in our last relationship. That's not fair to us, and it's not fair to them. And so we have to be careful that because we were involved in a toxic relationship, that we don't allow that toxicity to become a part of us, and we take that toxicity into the next relationship. See, what we have to do is we have to detox so that we are ready for the next relationship. You know, it's much like when I was in the military, and we trained for we trained for biochemical attacks. And we would have to go through this, you know, this biochemical training. One of the things that you had to do before you could move to a clean area was you had to cleanse yourself of the toxins so that you don't take those toxins into an area that's clean. And what happens is many of us are not ridding ourselves of the toxicity that's on us in this relationship. And we take that toxicity to our next relationship, and a relationship that started out clean over time will become dirty. It will become infested. It will become toxic. Why? Because when we came out of the toxic place, we did not take the necessary time to cleanse ourselves from the toxicity. So now, because we are covered in this toxicity, because we're covered in this toxic environment, we take this toxicity from this environment and then we infect and we make toxic a sterile environment. And that does not happen. That does not work. And so what we have to do in the moments that we are hurt, that we have come into this toxic relationship, we have to clean this toxicity off of us so that when we go into this new sterile relationship, we do not make it toxic as well. But we do a bad job of that. We just want to shrug it off and act like, you know, nothing matters. I like what Blue had to say. She says this. She says we can only date to our level of self-esteem, and that is so true, because you know, many of us will not date someone who makes us see where we are as far as our self-esteem is concerned. If I have a low self-esteem, I'm probably going to really date someone who has as low a self-esteem as myself. And it's different for men and women. You see, a man who has low self-esteem will choose a woman who has low self-esteem, not to help lift up her self-esteem, but so that he can feel dominant. And what will happen is his low self-esteem will come in the form of abuse, whether it be physical, mental, or emotional. And what it does is he helps to continue to crush her self-esteem, but he thinks it lifts his. In the same way, a woman who has a low self-esteem will date a man who has low self-esteem, and he will exemplify his low self-esteem either through being abusive, or it's a man that she can run over. You know, we hardly ever date people, especially if we're not in a good place. We hardly ever date people. People who have low self-esteem will hardly ever date someone who helps bring them up, who helps make them better, who brings out the best in them. And again, I come from the faith community. So for me, when it talks about dating someone, about being with someone, I'm bringing someone who can come in and help me to meet my divine mission, help me to meet my divine purpose. When I'm dating someone, it's someone who can help take me to the place where I need to be. I'm not trying to bring anybody in that's going to hinder me from what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to date anybody that's going to keep me from achieving in life what I'm trying to achieve. I'm not looking for someone who's going to hinder my dreams. I'm not going to I don't want to deal with someone who I always have to coddle, who I always have to reaffirm, listen, there's nothing wrong with saying to somebody, I love you. I care about you. You're beautiful. I think you're the sexiest. But now, if I have to do that for you to get your day started, That's rough. I need you to come into the relationship knowing you already fine. I need you to come into the relationship knowing that you already are the sexiest thing that has walked on the face of the earth. I need you to come into the relationship knowing that there ain't a person that's outside of this door that's better than you. So when I come in and I'm looking fly and I'm thinking I'm the best thing that God has created, when I think I'm looking my best and I step out and I'm showing and I'm exuding this confidence, I need you to have just as much confidence as I have. I need you to step back and say, yeah, baby, you fine, but boy, when I'm with you, it's a whole different situation. You understand what I'm saying? And so we have to we have to be able to come into situations with people who we know can make us better, that can help us reach our purpose, who can help us become better in life. Now, I want you to understand, I don't need you to make me better because I can achieve this on my own. But you bring that extra something that together, you know, we are dynamic. And so if we're not careful, you know, we have to understand that relationships can turn bad, but every relationship is going to have problems. Every relationship is going to have issues. But there's a difference between a relationship having issues and a relationship turning toxic. Something toxic can cause people to lose their lives. Something toxic can cause people to die. And so we have to be careful that we don't allow these relationships to turn toxic and eventually people turn around and die. Um, let's see. That passive aggressive behavior can make absolutely, absolutely, you know, and people that are passive aggressive, you know, I got a word for them, but you know, this ain't the forum for that. But we have to we have to be careful of that passive aggressiveness too. And so I you know, I want us to understand that relationships, man, relationships can be really good. Relationships can I mean, relationships can take you on a high. And when you're on this roller coaster ride, man, and you're going up, it's fun, especially when it's new. I mean, it's fun. You can talk all day, you can talk all night. You know, you have these all night conversations that, you know, when you look back on them, you're like, man, what did we talk about? You like spending time with each other. You like being in the presence of each other. And I'm telling you, it's when these times are good, when you have to really work on the relationship so that when the bad times do come, you're saying to yourself, we can make it through this. Because it's not if the bad times come, it's when. And while you're going up, and even while you're sitting at the top for a little while, because this is the thing, when you're sitting at the top, you can see that it's getting ready to go down. And so while you're at the top, take the time to prepare for the downslope. Take the time when you're going up. Take the time when you're sitting at the top to prepare for what's coming on the other side. Because a storm is coming. But are you prepared in the good times, in the time of peace? Are you prepared for the storm that's coming? Um, I'm up against the clock, folks. I appreciate y'all for coming. Um, I'm thinking over the next few weeks, next week or so, I want to do a series that talks about finding my way back and really finding your way back from a dark place. I don't really share my story a lot anymore, but there was a time in my life when I was in a really dark place. Um, and it took a lot of people doing a lot of prayer to help bring me out of that dark place. And so I know what it's like to fight back from the darkness. And so, next Friday and maybe a couple of Fridays after that, we'll talk about finding our way back from this dark place. Because I'm going to tell y'all something. When you're in a dark place, the hardest thing to do in that dark place is find just a little bit of light. And so I may deal with that. We may talk about that next week. Coming back from the dark place, finding your way back, fighting your way back. We may talk about that because coming back from a dark place is really tough. Um, but thank y'all for joining me. I pray that y'all will come back and be with me next week. I may share a little bit of my story about how I had to fight my way back from that dark place. I may talk about it. If it's going to help somebody, I'm going to try to line up some guests that had to fight their way back. Because especially if you have been in the community of faith, when you come from when you're in the community of faith and you feel like God has forgotten you, you feel that God has turned his back on you, it's hard to come back to the faith. So I may talk about that, and I may have some people that have traveled that road, coming back from that dark place. But man, I appreciate y'all. No, I really, really show back, man. I appreciate y'all for being with me each week. I hope that in some small way, here at Crosstalks, we're helping y'all, that we're sharing some good information with y'all. I appreciate y'all. And I just want to tell you, man, make sure y'all come back next Friday. Tell somebody. If you have not followed the page, follow the page. If you have not liked the page, make sure you like the page. Make sure you go over and like our YouTube page as well. And I want to tell y'all this real quick. I'm against the clock. I'm way over time. If y'all see some video games on my page over the next few days, the page has not been hacked. I need to be able to do that to get this page monetized. So, when you see it's a video game, don't even log on. I just need to be able to do that so I can do some monetization on our page. So make sure, yeah, absolutely. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Because we are, I'm possibly going to do the whole thing about my story on the YouTube page, because there's so much into it, and I hadn't told that story in over 6 years. I know, so appreciate y'all, man. God bless y'all, and thank y'all for coming. We'll see y'all next Friday.